My passion in life is getting people to realize their greatest passion by improving their memory, because our memories affect absolutely every area of our lives, from social to financial and everything in between. In the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly how your memory works, and probably more than you ever thought possible. The first thing you will learn is that you have power over your memory. This is a skill. It is not a gift or luck. It's not chance. You have a powerful memory right now.
But 10 minutes with Dave allowed me to retain information that I didn't think was even possible for myself.
Now, the random sequence test is the exact same test we use on our iPhone, BlackBerry, and smartphone apps. They're used on health insurance policies, neurologists, medical centers, everybody who wants to test your memory. If you've ever had a head injury, or if you're applying for a promotion in many cases, the military. So this is a very standard test. In essence, what it does is it allows us to test your ability to remember random bits of information in a visual form. So, basically what a doctor would do is they would give you a list of about 12, 13 objects, and they would read it to you once and see how many you remember. Now, most people score about 5 or 6 on this test. See, after they read it to you, they would ask you how many you remember, and if you get one out of order, well, you'd get that one wrong. So most people, 5 or 6 is actually a good average. And if you test yourself, you probably on an average day maybe get 3 on an average stressed out day. In this lesson, you're going to score at least 17 on this test. And that's really significant, because once you get over 9 on this test, technically you're at a genius level for memory. That's right, I'm bringing you up to a genius level in the first free lesson. Imagine what's in the course. All right, so let's get started with this.
My grades have increased a lot, and I'm doing well in school and putting less effort into my work.
And I was like, wow, I remembered them all, and we went backwards, and so I'm impressed.
Here's the list, and just take a quick look at it. If you had to memorize this, what's really going on in your brain? Well, if you had to memorize it, what we'd have to do would be to create some sort of construct, some image or some situation, whether it be by rhyme or repetition, that would have the first item remind you of the second, and that would remind you of the third. That's really what's going on in your brain when you're trying to connect things. Remember, your brain works by connections, right? When you remember someone's name, it's because you see their face, and that reminds you of their name. When you remember, your own phone number, you'll think of your phone number, that'll remind you of that number. So we're making connections all the time. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of really quick hints here. We try to keep these lessons really short, so I'm not going to go into too far into the science for this first lesson. But I'm just going to give you a few hints as to how this works. Number one, what I want you to do is visualize the information. Imagine it happening in front of you. If I say a chair, imagine that you're sitting in that chair, or it's actually in front of you. It'll stick in your mind much more than if you just picture the word chair on a piece of paper. That's number one. Number two is uniqueness. What I want you to do is think of this in a very strange or unique way. The sillier, the stranger you can make that image in your mind's eye, the more your brain will actually wake up and pay attention to it. There's actually a whole bunch of science around what part of the brain actually wakes up and puts information into its long-term memory. All right, enough of the theory. We got a lot more theory later on. I show you how your brain works and how the cellular structure works, and simple things that you can do to your diet and exercise and to calm yourself down to maximize these things. But for right now, I just want to get right down to some results. I want you to dive right in and experience this, because you can see it, you can hear it, but sometimes until you feel it and experience it, it doesn't actually register. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take you through this list one at a time, just like I would memorize it, but I'm going to open up my brain for a moment and show you what I would picture. Let's get started.
The beauty of the program was that it was so simple to use. It almost seemed too simple to be effective.
What I like is that I can actually use this when I leave here today.
So the first item in our list is a boat, and the next item is ice. So we have to think of some image that puts both of these things in the same image and makes it really, really weird. So I imagine a boat covered in ice. Here's an example. So the next item actually is a house, so we do the same thing. I imagine a house made of ice. Here's a great picture. Alright, now obviously these are not coming out of my brain, but perhaps they're coming off the internet. But I've selected some images to help trigger this in you, but it's actually just as easy as picturing it in your mind's eye. You don't have to actually paint these in Photoshop or anything like that. Alright, so we're actually quite a ways into it. We have house. The next item in the house is a car. We want to associate car to house. So how could I possibly make that image? Oh, that's a good one, yeah. And then the next thing after car is bench. So how can I make an association between car and bench? Well, here's an image that struck me. I thought of a bench made out of the back end of a nice car, and that just stuck in my mind. After bench, we have speakers. So I actually saw this bench. It was right in front of me. I saw this bench that had speakers in it. It was awesome. I wanted to have it for my house, so I pictured that. So here's someone I know who actually made an ice cream sundae with real speakers inside. I don't know what they were thinking, but it was a really neat party, I'll tell you that. So right after ice cream, we have a computer electronics. So here's a great example of actually a USB flash drive as well as a larger hard drive that looks like an ice cream bar. Take a look. So images like this are really going to make this stick in your mind's eye. You might think, oh man, this stuff isn't really going to work. All I'm doing is making silly pictures. Well, just keep on going and it'll work for you. Like the next item after we have computer electronics is actually a sweater. And you know, somebody actually made a sweater for their computer. That's right. They actually, maybe they were cold that day, but they covered their keyboard up in a sweater. It's amazing to me. So we've just made a couple of silly pictures, but let's see how well you're doing so far. We start off with a boat. What's that remind you of? That's right, it was covered in ice, and then ice reminds you of what? The house, and then the house reminds you of what? The car. You can't forget that image. This stuff really does work. All I'm doing is getting you to use a little bit of your imagination, and with the help of some images, of course, and your mind is doing the rest of the work. It connects these things together when they're done properly. All right, so we have sweater. What's after sweater? The next item is a fish. So I would picture this. I'd picture a fish made out of an old sweater. So I'd picture that. And after fish, the next one is a soccer ball. So the first thing I think of is I imagine a bunch of goldfish playing soccer. And yes, I even found an image of that. So take a look at that. After soccer ball, we have a chair. This is a random list that was made by people before, and I was just coming up with these images to help you out. So soccer ball and chair, this is what I come up with. This is very simple. You'll never forget it. After chair, somebody thought of a panda bear. So I was thinking maybe a panda bear sitting in a chair, but I found one even better. A chair made of panda bears. Can you picture that? And after panda bear, we have watermelon. So I was picturing, okay, I got to find an image of getting a panda bear to eat a watermelon. You know what? I found something better. And after watermelon, we have a square. Somebody wanted to put a geometric shape in here. So immediately I thought of a square watermelon. And then after square was tree, and somebody said, you can't find a square tree. Yeah, that's right. I found one. And after tree, we have a bike. So I'd imagine if somebody made a bike out of a tree, they made like an ordinary bike, but it was made of wood, and all the spokes and everything were made of wood. Could that really be possible? Yes, that's right. Someone did it. So here's a great image of that. And now the final item that was in this random list that was given to me was a jet. That's right, a jet that flies in the sky. So we want to associate that to the last item, which was a bike. And I think you see what we're doing. We're really creating links in a chain. But how could I possibly associate a bike to a jet? Yes, that's right. Somebody actually built that. It was a bike jet or a jet bike. Hey, it looks like he's having a lot of fun either way. So that's all we've done. I'm going to take all the images away, and you can actually pause this, or you can test yourself right now, or you can, you can follow along with me. But I want to test your memory, because this is the part that I really love. Now, I have to ask you a quick question though. Was that painful? Did your brain hurt? Are you suffering right now? Of course not. It was actually a lot of fun. It was creative, it was fun, it was enjoyable.
I didn't face death this morning, so it was quite painless. I thought it was excellent.
See, this is why anybody can do this stuff. All the other techniques, from formulas to names and faces and times tables, everything else, all the other stuff is just this easy. It's just a slight twist in the memory technique, and of course, it gets a bit more advanced when we come up with some more complex things like memorizing playing cards and things like that. Alright, so I've spoken a little bit because actually part of this test, when done properly, is I'm supposed to distract you a little bit and then test you on your memory.
Going to the grocery store, I can maybe remember 3 things, and going through the list of 17 today, I was able to go right through them and remember all of them.
So how well did you do? The first item was what? A boat, that's right. What's that remind you of? Ice, that's right. What's the ice remind you of? A house, that's right. And think of the house, what hit the house? Of course, you got it already. It's a car, that's right. And after car, what do we have? That's right, we had a bench. And what happened after the bench? The car, bench there? It was speakers, that's right. And what do we have to the speakers? The speakers were made of ice cream, that's right. And ice cream, what was that big ice cream bar? It was computers or electronics, that's right. And then computer electronics, what do we associate that to? Somebody put something around it. It was a sweater, that's right. This is purely from your memory. I'm not doing this, and you probably didn't write this down, but let's keep on going. After the sweater, what do we have the sweater made into? It was a fish, that's right. And what was the fish doing? The fish was playing soccer. That's right. And what we do with the soccer ball, or we had a soccer what? A soccer chair, that's right. And then, what do we associate to chair? Panda bear, that's right, a panda bear to a chair, it's a silly association. After panda bear, what do we associate? Watermelon, that's right. And what do we connect the watermelon to? It was a square, a shape, that's right. And then after the square, what did we connect the square to? It was a tree, that's right, so you saw a tree trunk that was square. And after the tree, what did we make a tree into? It was a bicycle, that's right. And then what did we connect the bike to? The final item was a jet. Can you believe this? Look how well you did. Now you know a genius level only gets to about 9 or 10 on this list. You've almost doubled that. That's right, you're like a double genius. You're like Einstein and Hawking combined. You're Einstocking. So what have we learned? Well, now that you've actually accomplished having a more powerful memory, I want to just open up Pandora's box a little bit and show you what is actually really possible. I'm going to give you one extra little tidbit of a lesson. I'm going to show you how to memorize, how to say hello in a foreign language. I'm going to choose one that's usually very tough for a lot of people, but you can do this with any language group, any different area of the world at all. So just to prove that, I'm going to teach you how to say hello in Chinese. Now, the way to do this is you still want to visualize what you're trying to memorize. The way to say hello in Chinese is ni hao. So say that with me, ni hao. And I'm going to tell you in 2 seconds how I do it. I imagine myself walking into my favorite Chinese restaurant and I trip and I land on my knee and I go, ow, because of my knee injury. Look at my knee. Ow, that hurts. Oh, if you want an even better image of ni ow, here's a great one. Oh, man, that's scary. So immediately, because I tripped and I land on my knee, somebody misunderstands me and they go, oh, ni hao. And immediately that gets linked up in my brain and I'm never going to forget how to say hello in Chinese. You still remember this entire list. Now you know how to say hello in Chinese. We have so much more in this.